Welcome to the Golden Mike podcast, where personal growth simply isn't enough. I'm your host, Mark Cordone, a positive psychology coach, a do-gooder from the island of misfit toys who founded the Joy Revolution. Each week I'll wrap with an extraordinary guest doing extraordinary things through their own revolutionary work to talk about the ups, downs, and all-arounds of life. It's my mission to provoke and empower you through increased joy and inspire you to spark your own revolution to change history for the better. Welcome to the most serious happiness podcast in this multiverse. Welcome to the Golden Mike podcast. Hey, what's going on again? It's Mark Cordone, Golden Mike Podcast. I'm here with Andrew Hand. His whole bio is in the show notes. And so I just want to jump right into it. Andrew, it is really good to be talking to you again, man.
Dude, it's an honor to be here. And, you're always in my mind, Mark. So it's great when we get a chance to connect and sit down for a conversation, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual. The last time that I believe that we had met in person, I was doing a thing out in California. You were doing a thing out in California, and I can't. You know what? I can't wait to talk about where we were at, because even now we're in different places, both you and I. But I just want to get right. I just want to get right into the show. We have so much to talk about. You got in a car accident, with music, and I hope your music is set up today, because I'm hoping that we're gonna get a hand special. That doesn't sound right. We're gonna get a hand job. No, that doesn't sound right either. I hope that we're gonna be able to set up and play something. But I know that you moved around a lot, and you you were a pastor's kid growing up. In retrospect, what kind of effect did that have on you? Not only growing up, I imagine, there was plenty of times where you were the new kid in class again, and you're like, I got to experience that. And then what does that mean for you now? Now that you're much older and wiser.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, man. You know what? It seems sort of in a way like just such a distant thing. Like, it doesn't feel like it's really part of me anymore, but like it was a part of my world that I didn't have control over because I was just a kid, right? So you just go along with what's given to you. And I never felt, like it was me. I never felt like, I kind of always felt like I was chafing against this system and just chafing against rules. And I just couldn't wait to grow up and be autonomous and do the things that I wanted to do, right? But I think, if it's in looking for the positive, right? I mean, I wouldn't have the spiritual center that I have if I hadn't been introduced to this idea of, hey, maybe there's something greater out there than, just the pursuits of the ego or, I don't know, man. I guess what I'm trying to say is religion, I pushed away from it so far, but it gave me a context to come back and say, I feel like there's bigger things out there. There's deeper things than what appear on the surface.
Sure. And I'm thinking of a few things right now. It's one of the first things that I'm thinking of is you almost like kind of being like a wolf in sheep's clothing and being like, when I get my autonomy, when I get my freedom, then I'll be able to let this wolf out, not necessarily, a negative thing, but more so like I'm going to play, I'm going to play it by the status quo. I'm going to pin my wings back and then I'm going to unfurl it one day. Is that really
I definitely don't think, there was more, not like I'm going to pin my wings back, like, come on, dang it. Like, open my wings. Let me open my wings. Let me open my wings. So it was like, I kind of always felt like, I just wanted to be free of it all, and I was always trying to express myself, and, that came out in rambunctious energy, and I got into trouble a lot, but,
really,
I just sort of, I guess one of the themes of my life, whether maybe unhealthy or healthy, it's hard to say, but is that idea of a dream, man, living for this future idea of like, hey, someday it's going to be this. And, before I had chosen a vocational path or anything, it was just a kid dreaming like, hey, one day it's going to be different.
What were you dreaming about?
Well, I mean, being rich, being famous, and really what that all kind of meant is like, hey, I wanted to be free. I wanted to be able to make my own decisions and do what I wanted to do on my terms. And I wanted then to be able to make a difference in the world. Like, I was like, hey, when I'm on my own and I'm doing things my way, like I'm going to be successful. I'm going to have the things I want, and I'm going to be able to really like contribute something back into this world.
How has success changed for you over the past few years? Because you were talking about sort of the not necessarily the aesthetics of money, but almost the value, the energetic value of it, right? How has that changed over the years? Going from the rambunctious one to us eating hamburgers in California.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that financial component, I guess, for me, I feel very abundant in my mind and in my energy, but there's definitely been, in my musician years. And I've experienced a lot of financial lack, and I grew up with my mom being really poor and on food stamps. And I've tried to like strip that of my energy, man, I'm not, and I don't resonate with those feelings, those thoughts of money being difficult or whatnot. But I can't lie and say that my reality has not been one of some financial challenges, right? I don't have the financial freedom to the degree that I'd like to have it. But I think the thing is for me where there's peace in knowing that, as I get more in line and more congruent, like, and finding ways to stand more for myself, right? I know it's out there. You know what I mean? Like I've always felt it was just a reality that, hey, one day, man, it's going to be there. And so I guess one day hasn't arrived, but it's like, it's unfolding, man, and all my needs are met. I'm taken care of, but yeah, man, I don't know. I look forward to when the financial component of things is more in that level of where there's just complete freedom and flow and not a concern for money. Sure.
And I think it's really interesting that you were talking about growing up in the financial situation that your family was, and we met at one of those programs where it was like, you know what I mean, like Wallace Waddles type of stuff. You know what I mean? And so I know that you were out there doing things, and also at the same time, things like Brendan Bouchard and Tony Robbins. In being a part of those programs, in being a part of Tony's stuff, how has that changed your ideas around financial money, and also at the same time being congruent, like you talked about? Yeah, I guess for me, I've always felt that money's an energy, and when you feel the flow and connection to it, like regardless of how much. Like, let's say, putting a definition on, it was this amount of money. But like, I've noticed that it flows in more abundance when I just am letting go of an expectation or an outcome, and I believe it's coming to me. And yeah, I don't know, man, it's still an interesting piece that I'm like, as I've built my own funnels and stuff, the frustrations with that, not necessarily always delivering the consistent automatic income that I'd like, but just knowing that like, hey man, you're just one idea away, right? One lineup of things, like getting it put together in a way that really takes off. And that's it. It's literally just like, hey, keep taking action, keep looking for what feels in alignment, what feels joyous and fun. And how can you serve to a greater degree, and trusting that if I take action through that framework, like it's going to work out. It's just a matter of timing. Sure. And as long as I've known you, you've been one that was always taking action, right? You were always one that, what is congruent to me, what feels good to me, those sort of things. And, one of the things that I want to kind of backtrack on is what happened to you when you were 16. Like you got in a pretty nasty car accident.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not pretty nasty. Would you say that I'm not being hyperbolic in saying that you were close to death?
Yeah. I mean, I totaled my car. I flipped it, 3 times on the interstate going 80 miles an hour. And in that, time stopped and I saw my life flash before my eyes, in this series of pictures like a movie. And I just felt as I grabbed the steering wheel and I could feel, the metal crunching and this glass breaking. And I was just like, God, please don't let me die. I'm not ready to go. I felt this deep dread that I hadn't lived the way I wanted to live. I hadn't been the kind of person I wanted to be. And that if it ended right now, I would have fallen short of my potential, and it just felt like just this gut stabbing, holy shit, oh no, this huge amount of pain. Don't let this happen. And the next thing, my car is upright and I'm grabbing the steering wheel and I'm alive. Yeah, man, the paramedics, they came, as I later got out of the car and flagged down a trucker and they're like, we expected to pick up your body parts. It's, people just don't survive these kinds of accidents usually.
Wow. A lot of people who, and I am regressing in terms of the questioning route, but also at the same time, a few people who have been on the show have talked about near-death experiences and how near-death experiences have changed almost the way that they look at the world.
Yeah.
How would you say that the way that you looked at the world either changed or didn't? I mean, you're negotiating at this point, right? You're negotiating with God to keep you alive. Yeah. Which is it's desperate, right? It's a desperate move to be like
a deep inner sense of panic. I mean, it was the most amount of fear I probably felt in my life. Just like, this is it. Like I'm going to die. Like I'm either dead or I'm not, but it feels like I'm moving towards death. Please. No. And dude, that experience did change me. And, people that go to the other side, you hear those kinds of stories and I didn't get to that level. I mean, I was still conscious and in this realm, but when I, after seeing this, my life flash before my eyes, and feeling that like, holy shit, I'm alive. And as that sunk in more deeply, like you're alive, Andrew. Remember like what you felt, like you begged for a second chance and you felt that you hadn't lived the way you wanted to live. Now you can. So what are you going to do, man? And I just felt such inner peace. Like, everything just seemed like it was kind of like floating on a cloud. There was a whiteness and a glow to things. There really wasn't any concern or care or worry in my mind. It was sort of like, hey, I'm here, I'm alive. Let me go out and interact with life and love people and just show up in the world and be joyful. And that's what I did. That's what I did, man. And high school changed for me. I didn't fit in before. I was like not friends with the jocks. Like I kind of looked at them as like, the meatheads or the preppy kids, and I wasn't cool enough.
Right.
And suddenly I just started talking to everyone, man. And everyone just responded positively. Like the whole school suddenly became my friend. There was no clique to me. And, it was really magical for a short period of time, maybe 3 months or something. And then, I started to like look for that meaning, like, hey, what's the deeper meaning and why was I saved? And I started to think like, okay, God has saved me, and I'm supposed to, because I was growing up in this religion, is like, I'm supposed to get closer to God and I'm supposed to spread God's message to, as many people as I can and remind them like, hey, they shouldn't be like drinking or smoking and, like just all this kind of stuff that
So you moved from kind of spirituality to kind of religiosity.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I grew up in such a fervent religion.
Yeah.
My mother being a minister, and I never totally bought in, I guess. And so I drank, I smoked a little bit, and even though those things were like bad, like I didn't feel that they were bad internally, but in this accident, as I was like, oh, I was doing bad things. I was, I need to shift, and I need to remind people to shift. And I remember speaking to my whole school at like an assembly event, and it was basically like sharing my testimonial and, my story of surviving. And it just had such a religious like tone to it. I'm embarrassed of it. Like, I feel bad about it now. I mean, I know that it was where it was coming from was, at the time, like congruent, like, hey, I'm speaking my truth, but I see now, like, man, gosh, I'd love to tell those kids something a little different now.
It kind of sounds like you were coming off as a moral authority. But it's the intention was, hey, I just went through a near-death experience, and it's tough to see you guys, be rough on your bodies when I just went through a near
soul to be eternally damned, I mean, which is just
Did you shame everyone? Were you like shame you?
I don't think it was very soft-handed approach, but I think what was more powerful is internally how much I was believing it. So I might not have been like wagging my finger at other people. I think I always had love and tolerance, but like internally I was like, I've got to toe the line even more, and this is what God wants me to do. And, maybe I'm going to go evangelize and be a speaker, maybe be a minister. Like, I got deep, man. There was a Bible study group led by one of our teachers, and he was a bit of a right-wing fanatic. And I just got deep into this group, like I was the lead member of this Bible study, and like feeling like, hey, the students that aren't in this group, well, they're kind of missing the light. They ought to be here, Yeah. I was a little evangelist, and and it left me at the end of the day it just left me start, feeling kind of more hollow, because it's like, that wasn't the message from my accident. Was kind of the spiritual side. Hey, be loved, be light, be joyful, express yourself. And the religion started to be like, no, do it in this line, and hey, don't do this and don't do that. It was kind of actually the opposite of the awareness that I had after my accident.
Yeah, it sounds as if it was interpreted through the filter of religion. And how do you feel about that? How do you feel about organized religion at this point in your life? I
mean, I've still got a chip on my shoulder, man, but I think I've tried to soften that, and say like, look, I'm okay with if people want to say God. Like before I used to kind of be like the universe, and like, okay, look, if people want to believe, like whatever they want to believe is cool with it for them. I think that at the end of the day, whether there is a God, there isn't a God, there was, Jesus was the Son of God, he wasn't, whatever. There have been spiritual people that have walked this earth, and they've kind of all left us the same message, and religion has come and skewed that message. They basically said, hey man, be loving, be tolerant, be accepting, follow joy, believe that everything in the universe is yours and that you are of the same fabric as the universe. And I think religion has just come in and put so many rules and guilt and shame around things that it's sad, but it's kind of become the opposite of what those, the people that these religions have been set up around actually taught.
Now, do you think that part of I know there was a period where you became an atheist. Was that period a period more of an exploration for you, or was it a period where
it was just pushing away from this, this religion? I'd just come out of high school, I'd graduated this group, I had my accident, went deep into this group, and then started to feel that disenfranchisement and was like, you know what, man, like, screw that. Screw everything I grew up with. That was a bunch of malarkey. And so for a while, I wouldn't say I'd be like, there is no God, but I'd be like, you know what? I just don't talk to me about a God because you can't prove it. Like, I didn't get angry at people, but I was like, for me personally, like, I don't believe in that. I believe you should be a good person and, be thoughtful and be kind. And I would talk negatively about religion. So I guess I had a pretty strong chip on my shoulder and would probably say, hey man, it's all bullshit,
Yeah.
And I've softened that and just say, like, I realize, look, people are going to do what they want to do. They're going to follow what they want to follow. You can't change everyone's mind. The best thing you can do is just be an example of your truth. Right. And that's it, man.
Now, number one is that's quotable. So that's gonna be a quote that I use on some sort of Instagram at some point. Yeah. But also at the same time, I know that you were having some mental health issues. It's
don't we all, Mark?
Yeah, for sure. But I'm talking about that depression that you had. Yeah. And I'm not sure if it was when you were going to Arizona State or after that.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting that you went into, like, you had almost a blissful, ecstatic state for a while, and then you went into a depression state for a while.
Yeah, kind of right, the exact opposite of it. And I think that as I look back on it, it's hard to know, like, that concussive force of an accident. Who knows what that actually did to my brain?
Yeah.
I never saw a neurologist.
Absolutely.
I never had a brain scan. So there's likely some realities that I've had some chemical imbalances in my brain for a long time. Mm-hmm. And, but what happened is, the power of environment, right? So as I left all this, left my mom for the first time in my life and left this religion and, was going to, like, all right, I'm going to a secular college and I'm living on my, on my own. I'm having to have a job. I don't like what I'm doing. I don't feel in line with the school program that I'm doing. Like, everything just kind of felt difficult. And like, man, this isn't what, like, when I was a kid, man, I've had this dream that I wanted to, be famous or whatever and be doing something creative. And so it's like, here I am, like, slinging falafel 12 hours a day, trying to go to school on and off, having a lot of anger, playing a lot of video games, watching a lot of movies, just kind of trying to zone out. And yes, I have this dream, but it's sort of this dissonance of, like, I want something so bad, yet I'm so, like, depressed and feel so fearful about how to actually do anything to make that happen, that I'm doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. How did you feel about the fact that you were, as you said, doing nothing, and there was, earlier in your life, there was a moment in which you negotiated for your life?
Yeah.
Did those thoughts come back a lot to when you were slinging falafel?
Like, almost every night, maybe not every night, but I remember many times sitting, for a time I lived with my grandparents, and I remember sitting in their upstairs bathroom. Like, I'd just, like, take a shower or something, then I'd sit on the sink and just look into the mirror as I sat there and talk to myself. And I'd look into my eyes and I'd just be like, Andrew, what are you doing, man? Come on. You've got to break out of this. You have so much potential, man, so much light. You're so much more than this. Come on, man, please figure this out. And I guess I just felt so paralyzed, Mark. I felt like I'd have these conversations and I felt this deeper, like, hey man, you're supposed to be doing something. You have it within you, but I was just so fearful. And maybe it was the trauma of my accident. I mean, I can't tell you exactly why, but, like, just the idea of moving somewhere on my own was terrifying, man. I mean, my acting coach is like, hey, Andrew, you're good. You have talent. Move to LA, move to New York. Right. And it just was so terrifying, man. It took me 7 years till I finally had just I've had enough. I'd had too many of those conversations with myself in the mirror. I felt this, like, I cannot take this anymore. And so I gave notice to my job and moved to New York City to become a musician.
Oh, so you left it all. You left it all. Yeah. And what was you left it all because what I'm hearing is you couldn't take it anymore. You couldn't take another night of looking into the mirror and saying, okay.
I mean, that, and perhaps, like, I mean, I had followed this acting path, and, I had this coach, and he was from New York. And I'd gone to a conference and met some casting directors. And so it's like, it started to feel a little easier. They were like, hey, you should come to New York. You ought to come. Let us know if you're in LA. And so I started to think like, all right, I've had this dream for so many years, like, hey, I'm going to move to LA or New York. But finally I started to get just enough confidence. Like, I think I can actually do this, Yeah. I have a cousin in New York. My mom's husband at the time was going through a master's program in New York. So I went out and visited him and, got to kind of dip my toes into what it was like to be in New York, and met with some of these casting agents. And so that really, it was like, all right, I'm doing it. That trip solidified it. And so I gave a year notice to my job and just said, hey, if I can save $5,000, I'll buy a one-way ticket. I can already go stay with my cousin when I move there. That'll help. I'm sure I can find a job. And I just believed that I could do it, and so that's what I did.
That sounds absolutely terrifying.
It was, dude. But I mean, you think of like it actually, in actually making the decision, it was one of the most freeing things in my life, because I felt so much fear for so long that it felt like to finally be like, this is it, I'm doing it. I felt kind of this excitement and elation, like finally my life is about to start.
Okay. Now let's go to New York now. So Andrew in New York, chapter 2, right? Yeah. So the move to New York, talk to me about how that was. It's almost like this renewed hope. Right? It's almost like he finally is getting to do his passion.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, it felt like one of the most magical things in my life. Like that trip that I took before I moved there was just like, hell yes. Like, this is where I belong. This is my kind of place. And so when I moved there, dude, like I felt reborn. I felt like this is a new version of Andrew. Mm-hmm. And I get to start doing what I dream of. Like, I've dreamed my whole life of doing. I'm going to do it.
Okay.
And so there was a lot. I mean, yes, there was definitely, believe me, there was fear and uncertainty. I mean, trying to find a job and survive in New York, like it was not an easy existence, but it just felt like pure possibility. Like it's all happening. It's going to work.
That sounds like the end of depression then.
Totally, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what, I mean, it sounds like you were now taking action. The Andrew I know now is a person that takes a lot of action. Is this the part where you started taking action, and it's been like that ever since?
I think so, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I just am looking. Somehow my iPad stopped recording. What the
heck? Joe Fern, let's pause. Andrew, how do you think it's going so far?
I think it's going good, man.
Okay. Is there any place that you want me to take the interview to?
No, man. I think, dude, this actually stopped recording a while ago. I don't know how much we've lost on my end. Jesus, sorry.
No worries.
Freaking iPad.
Did we run out of memory?
I don't know, dude. My iPad appears to be frozen. Holy hell. Well, you're recording on your end, so hopefully that. Jesus, that really is a bummer though, because we were going to get better quality audio here.
Yeah, it was. It is kind of a bummer.
I've hit record again, and I'll keep an eye on it.
Okay. But I feel like we were in flow for a second.
Yeah, man. No, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. And so, okay, Joe Fern, we're back in 3, 2. Okay, and so it really sounds like this move to New York was the end of the depression.
I mean, yes, for a period of time, right? I mean, depression is something that I have dealt with, I mean, most of my life, honestly.
It sounds like you moving to New York really was the end of this depression phase, was it?
Yeah, man. I mean, so for a time, I've dealt with depression on and off, my whole life, but it definitely showed me the power of how shifting an environment and like what a peak experience is like. And so I guess it would be a good reference for me as I go on later in my life and, really be looking at depression and be like, all right, how do I not let this control me? Because like it comes back, man. It comes back and like it can knock you flat and suddenly you're ineffective. You're not taking action. Your thoughts and emotions are are all the opposite of what you want them to be, right? And it's this compounding vicious cycle.
Totally. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but like one of the questions that I was going to ask you about your depression was, did you need your depression almost like a muse, like tortured artists use depression to create?
I wouldn't say that I needed it or, wanted depression. Like I didn't, but it was therapy. Like creating songs helped, it helped me deal with the tough stuff that I was going through. And so, in these moments when I'd get blue or whatever, I'd usually write and record songs. And I was, I guess I was doing it when I was happy too. So I don't know. It's hard to say, man, because my music at first was very angry. Yeah. And energetically, I felt I was like not angry. Like I felt so excited to be in New York, but there was like a lot of just like political outrage. And I'd just say there was a lot of ego stuff. Like, and music became the mirror for me to see myself more clearly. And as I'd see that, like it was the catalyst and propulsion for me to keep evolving and growing and saying like, how do I live a more congruent, vibrant life? I guess that's the pursuit that I continue to be on to this day, is like, how do I live with more joy, more congruent, more gratitude, and just like, go back to what my accident taught me. And I'd come back to that place a couple different times in my life through meditation, that level of like spiritual awakening. And so there's always been the reminder of like, hey, I've seen what the other side, like I've gotten the message. I know what the message is. And so how do I get my life in line with it?
And also what I'm hearing is when you see the contrast of a peak experience, you realize that you don't have to fall back on, going into depression to write. You can write about peak experience. I love that notion of what you write about is basically what's a mirror of what's going on inside of you, and I think I'm just relating back to right after the accident, the way that you were seeing the world in a blissful way. People responded in a blissful way. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it sounds like
I'd say like everyone was sort of just, like they didn't have any idea that in my mind I felt like I didn't fit in. They were just suddenly like, oh, Andrew's talking like, he's a cool guy. Like I never saw this side of him. I never saw this side of him before. He's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we are now in, we're now in New York, right? It's the city of possibilities. And I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about that one shot, where the person gets to New York and they've got their bags in their hands and it shows them looking. Do you know what I'm talking about? And it shows them looking around New York and it spins around them. Is that how you felt?
I felt that, man. I mean, I remember showing up at my cousin's door with my duffel bag, and there was just so many moments of walking, from the airport, taking the train and just feeling like I'm here, and even living there, man. Like there's so many moments of like, God, I'm in New York. Like there's so much energy. There's so much possibility. I just love it, man. Even when I go back to New York, it feels so magical, man. It feels like home.
Amazing. Now, I want to let you know, we just had we're going to break the fourth wall here. We just had a technical glitch on the show. I know you have a guitar right next to you now. When the glitches were going down, if at any moment you feel you want to talk about a particular peak experience or an experience where you were depressed, or an experience where you first got to New York and there was that hope, I would say introduce the song. Like let's go with the flow here,
dude. I mean, the song that kind of embodies everything is Dreamer.
Well, introduce it. Talk about it.
Yeah, I'm just grabbing my guitar here. So Dreamer, man, is it's my story, man. It's my story of kind of how I've seen my life, I guess in metaphor or whatever, but it's in real, like holding to that, like, what, man, our dreams, what we feel is possible for us, no matter what the world or anyone else tells us, following our heart, following our dreams, following the calling inside of us, that is the most important thing to life, you know? So, I mean, if you think about, maybe it's like, it's the message that came back from my accident. It's the message that I've lived into, you know, is I've continued to say, like, man, what does your heart want? Mm-hmm. And more so, I think, you know, I mean, I don't know if we'll get into this or not, but just the message behind my music, like why I write it, is because I want to say something that reminds people of what I just put into words, but does it in a short, little, compact, emotional nugget, you know? And that's why I love songs, man, so much. It's just the beauty of music and the emotions I feel, you know, when I'm recording or writing songs or performing them. You know, there's just nothing like it. Those drums slamming in and just, you know, big background chorus chant, you know, where you belt out a melody and it's, I don't know, man, it's the place that I've felt the greatest synergy and aliveness. There's other moments I've felt it, I guess, but it's been what's kept me going.
So this song Dreamer, you'd consider your anthem.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's definitely one of them. You know, the album, the new Echodrive album is called A New Dawn. Mm-hmm. And Dreamer is, you know, I'd say it's like the deep heart of the record. Mm-hmm. It's the softer, and I don't mean softer sonically, like it's a big song, but I mean, it's like, it has less of the ego, maybe. Yeah. Like some of the songs have more egoic, like drive and powerful energy. And I think this one is just like speaking from the heart and speaking about some of the pain that I've felt in pursuing my dreams, but like that thing, like, hey, maybe I've been beaten down, but you know what? I'm still holding to what I feel I'm on this earth to do.
Well, I'm ready to hear it.
All right, let's
ready to hear Dreamer.
Living on the other. For all my life, I've been stuck in. Oh, I fucked that up. Hold on, let's do this again. Let's do this again. I was feeling it too.
So was I.
All right, we're gonna do this again. Living on the other, living on the other, living on the other. I was born with my head in the clouds. I had to get lost before I got found. In my heart there's a rhythm of sound. It picks me up when my head gets down. For all I know, there is nothing I know but to follow your heart with the rhythm and soul. Never let them bring you to the ground. Never let your fire go out when you're living on the other side. Just dreaming, living on the other side. You're screaming, living on the other side. You gotta love your life. I'm the one, I'm a dreamer. I'm the one who say we'll never be hurt. I'm the one who stand up a believer. I'm the one, I'm a dreamer. I'm the one, I'm a dreamer. I'm the one, I'll be my own teacher. I'm the one who stand up a believer. I'm the one, I'm a dreamer. I'm a dreamer. For all my life, I've been stuck in the crowd. I tried to blend in just to fade out. In my head, there's a beautiful sound. It picks me up when my heart gets down. When you're living on the other side, just dreaming, living on the other side. You're screaming, living on the other side. You gotta love your life. I'm the one, I'm a dreamer. I'm the one who stand up a believer. I'm the one, I'll be my own teacher. I'm the one, I'm a dreamer. I'm the one, I'm a dreamer. I'm the one they say will never be hurt. I'm the one who stand up a believer. I'm the one, I'm a dreamer. Living on the other side, just dreaming. Living on the other side, just screaming. Living on the other side. You gotta love your life. Living on the other, dreamer. Living on the other, dreamer. Living on the other, dreamer. You gotta love your life. I'm a dreamer.
Hey, it's Mark. I hope you're digging the Golden Mike podcast. If you have or are just starting your own revolution fueled by joy, there's a site I created for you. If you, like me, believe that personal growth is simply not enough, if you, like me, are committed to changing history for the better in both micro and macro ways, check out joyrevolution.com. In there, you'll find an archive of our over 200 Golden Mike Live Facebook shows, and of course, our podcast that you're currently listening to. Check out the blogs highlighting how positive psychology and joy theory apply to your everyday life. There's even some cool clips from our Joy Revolution course geared towards influencers, speakers, writers, and change agents. It's all there. Go to joyrevolution.com. That's joyrevolution.com. Let's get back to the episode. I was waiting for a huge dramatic pause just in case there was one. Oh man, good stuff, dog. That is good stuff. You know what? When as you're performing that, I'm thinking about like all that you've been through, and putting it all together, sort of that idea of you're talking about blending in and living on that.
All my life, I've been stuck in the crowd. I tried to blend in just to fade out. Oh,
and it's really cool hearing, not only hearing the performance, but I'm curious, how did this song come together? I love the background, behind how songs were written.
Yeah.
Was this one in the shower where you're living on it?
No, this was, honestly, so this was written, this and the song Gold were created out of some of the deepest pain, I've felt. I'd been a musician for 11 years, and I had taught songwriting and guitar for the last 6 years, and I'd really been studying, songwriting and working to write great songs. And I believed like, man, I'm a good songwriter. Like I'm getting there. I think I'm at a hit level potential perhaps. And so I decided to finally kind of get out of my incubation process and jump back into the music industry side of things. And I was like, I'm going to go, to a conference. I'm going to go do a mentoring session. And I'm going to try and get these songs seen. And so, I go to this conference. It's amazing. I meet this person and, she says, hey, when you get back to Montana, let's do a coaching call. I'll listen to your music and I'll tell you what I think. And I was not prepared for what she told me. She told me that my songwriting was sophomoric, and amateurish. She didn't see any way that I was going to, get to what I wanted if I kept doing what I was doing. She's like, you need to stop everything you're doing. You need to stop writing on your own. You need to stop recording. You need to go study songwriting like you're an infant, a baby at it, and start from square one. And, that was pretty tough to hear. But what it did to me is it lit this fire. I was like, you know what? Screw that. Like, I'm going to do this my way. Okay, maybe I need to rewrite songs and get better, but like, I'm going to put a band together and I'm going to play my songs in front of people, and I'm going to let people decide. Because for 11 years, man, I'd really avoided playing live. I just was focused on writing and recording because I was like, I've got to write a hit. I've got to become a better writer. And so I just felt like I didn't want to be bothered with anything that wasn't me in my little cave trying to create better songs. And when my mom or brothers would be like, you ought to play live, I'd be like, screw that. and so finally I was like, all right, I'm going to play live. And so I put, Echodrive was born, right?
Yeah.
And I found these guys in Montana, and, we played these songs that this lady said, we're amateurish. And I kept writing new stuff, and I felt that was getting better and better, and had a new group of songs that, recorded with the band, and really believed like, hey, these new group of songs, like you heard one of them, Miracle of Sound, and believed like, hey man, this is the music, like this is going to do it. I'm going to sell out stadiums in a couple of years with this band. We're going to win a Grammy. I'm putting my stamp of approval and resting my hopes and dreams with these guys and in this iteration of Echodrive. And what would happen is, the guys basically told me, in a meeting one time, I just came clean with them and was more like, hey guys, look, I know in the beginning I said that I had this big dream, but I didn't need you to buy in, but I'm getting worn down doing everything in the band. And I really need you guys to help me here. It would be really great if we could, because I have this vision and I just can't do it on my own. And they came back to a man and were just like, hey man, we respect your vision, but we don't have, this isn't a top priority in our lives. This isn't even a top 5 priority. We just want to live our lives and we have families and things. So sorry.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't a rude, I guess what I'm trying to say is it was a very almost nonchalant, like, hey, it was at rehearsal. But what it did to me is it just, I think on a subconscious level, it crushed me, dude. And so mysteriously after that, I got ill. I couldn't get out of bed one day. I had to call in and quit work, say, hey, I can't come into work. And that was in 2016, and I've not had a job, since then. I just, I couldn't work, and I was getting sicker. I dropped down to 125 pounds. And I think what, the truth is that there was mold in my house. But whatever the health crisis, the manifestation was, I think it was because I was pushing myself so hard, and I was so focused on this outcome, right? I had this expectation. And when that was shattered, it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Like I'd faced so much rejection in my life, man. Yeah. And I felt like, hey, I can handle it. Bring it on. Bring on the rejection. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. But this was like, fuck, man, everything. Like I believed so much in these guys and that it was going to happen. I had some magical experiences playing with these guys. And so I guess I'm coming a long, long way around to saying that in this stage of being sick, I had to let go of my band. I had to let go of music. I had to let go of any idea that I was in control of my life and just say the only thing I can control is focusing on getting well. Yeah. And in that surrender, it took about 8 months for my body to start repairing and where I had enough energy to actually, get my guitar and play it and even think about making music. And so what I started doing is right on my laptop, dude, I just opened it up and went back to how I'd started music before I even knew anything about it. I just grabbed audio loops and drug them around and made beats. And so that's what I did. I just started making these beats, and Gold and Dreamer were two songs that I made basically because I couldn't even play an instrument really much, or I just made these tracks. Right. And they were completely different songs melodically and lyrically. But I had them and I felt something special to them. I felt like, hey, these are a new level for me. Yeah. Yeah. And they eventually would turn into Gold and Dreamer.
And I do want Gold to be played. It's one of my favorites.
That one's tougher to pull off on acoustic.
So, but you've been playing quite a bit lately. We don't have to. We can have it play it out. We can play it out. If need be. Okay. I am curious about this because it's almost like life told you to. It hit the pause button. And was like, okay, broski, you had the car accident. Now we're gonna hit pause for a second and really have you evaluate what it is that is sparking your fire right now. Yeah. And you know this. I was a musician for 13 years, a few opportunities, not as many as yours. And I just remember the feeling of, like when we would play a song together in a garage, no one is watching except for us. The feeling of total bliss and ecstasy. And for me, that's what music was about. And I'm not saying to you, like, to write, Grammy worthy things or was a negative thing. But it's like, it's almost like when you're telling me that, I'm like, oh my God, I want to shake you, Andrew, because like just write the song that lights you up, man. But like we have different takes on things, because I know we've talked about things before. I don't know how you approach songwriting now, but it seems like there was a point where it was almost formulaic for you. Like you could break down.
I studied what made hits, right?
Yeah.
So, and I can't unlearn that information. So, I mean, believe me, dude, when I write, it's coming from my heart and soul. Like this record, New Dawn, I'm so proud of this thing, man. I mean, this is like, it's me finally, feeling like, hey, I learned to write the kind of melodies that I want. And I learned to sing better. And I learned so many things that, look, people all my life have said, oh, you're really talented, kid.
Yeah.
But talent doesn't mean a hill of beans. I mean, honestly, like, or just expressing yourself like that. We've talked about this, I think, like privately, but there's a private musical world and there's a public musical world.
Yeah.
And, I think most of my modality, I operated in just my private musical world is good enough for the public. And I didn't have as strong of a filter in saying, hey man, how good is this melody? And what if you completely changed it? And how good is this lyric? And look, man, I may never be the songwriter that I want to be. I mean, who knows? All I can say is I've dug down the rabbit hole as deep as I will go. I'm not going to try and write hits anymore. I feel like I've internalized as much as I can. And I continue to make the music that I want to make. Mm-hmm. And I guess I just have a pretty strong inner critic. It's like, is this good enough? Let's make it better. Mm-hmm. And not in a negative way, man. It's sort of like, how do you make this fire on all cylinders so that it really, like, when other people hear it, it does to them the same thing that it does to you.
Yes. I totally get you. Now that when you phrase it like that, you phrase it from the standpoint of, I create the music that, and not only lights you up, Andrew, but like will light up a lot of people.
I'd love for it to, Mark. I mean, I've had that expectation for so long. Yeah. And I think that's part of, even with this record, man, A New Dawn, I had some big expectations. That it came back. Like I was pretty crushed, dude, after the first iteration of Echodrive. When that fell apart, I mean, it's an understatement, dude. Not to say I completely lost hope. And so I resigned. I went to Phoenix and I just became a cover artist. And I stepped into that, man. It was a way for me to make a great amount of money, and it gave me a freedom I'd never experienced before. Mm-hmm. But I kind of just had let go of any original music dream. And as I wrote this album, as I created it, I was having a lot of damn fun, but I started to also think like, man, these are hits. Like how am I going to make this a reality? And so I started to put that old framework of pressure on myself, internal pressure of like, hey, let's make this happen.
Right.
And
right.
that led me to, decision making, which we wouldn't have met if I hadn't have been making those kinds of decisions. But, decisions that left me in a big financial hole because I was so like, hey, I'm shooting for the stars and I'm going to find a way, come hell or high water, to make this happen, to fuel my dream through my own entrepreneurial efforts.
Well, what's really interesting is this idea of being a cover artist. I'm looking back at your, when you were a kid, and I called you a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's almost like a return to that for a little bit, right? It's like,
it was, yeah. I mean, it was, but I'll tell you what, there was a very clear intention that I said, I'm going to do this because I realize I need to get better. And so what I came to realize is that I had taught songwriting for 6 years and I'd studied, but I had not performed these songs. And there's a big difference between being able to teach someone something, like teach them a song and talk about what makes a song, versus like, hey, I've sung this 100 times and I've taken that melody, that singer's whatever, their mojo, and it has become a part of my mojo. And before that, like, I always wanted to make pop music, man, but I was like this rock and roll guy that sort of just like yelled or belted out my emotions. I didn't really dig in and study and like, I mean, embody these melodies and lyrics of songs I love, which like Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, Bruno Mars. I love that stuff, man. And so as I sang that over and over and over again, Imagine Dragons, et cetera. Of basically course. Pop music. My whole life I've loved pop, but I never put it into practice. And so by putting it into practice, I found that my own melodic sense drastically changed, and my own musical aesthetic production drastically changed.
So it's almost a way of embodiment, right? Yeah. To get out of your own head and to learn it from a more intuitive standpoint, right? Versus a study.
Also, I mean, in a sense, getting back into my head too, though, and saying, hey, what do I really want my music to be? And I remember I opened my journal and I said, I want big drums, I want orchestration, I want distorted guitars, and I want big anthemic melodies. Right? And before that, I'd sort of just created music in an intuitive way, like, hey, I'm just writing songs and I'm playing the instrument that I know. So it was mostly guitar-driven rock. But it was like getting real clear on that intention of like, man, I love orchestration. Man, I love thundering drums. I don't just love what comes off of a drum kit. I love thundering, big, huge sounds. Right. I love synthesizers. Like just putting it finally all together. And so that's why I'm so proud of A New Dawn, is because I feel like for the first time in my life, I actually fully synthesized everything that I wanted to do into reality.
It sounds like it sounds like you really found your voice on this one, and you found your voice, blah 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 blah. That's used quite a bit in music, but I think that it's a metaphor for life, and I didn't even say what the metaphor was yet. It's almost the difference between a professional karaoke singer and a true singer-songwriter is that they have a vision of what their music sounds like. And if you don't sit down and write what the music is going to sound like, you are bound for duplication. And I'm not talking about music. I'm talking about everything. And so in many ways I talk to coaches about it. Like if you try to do Tony Robbins style without thinking about your own voice, you're just going to be a Tony Robbins karaoke singer, Yeah. And so I think it's pretty cool in terms of the way that, after you got sick, you kind of went to this return. I want to go in a direction now that, I want to say that I was shocked when we met up last time. Because we were meeting up for hamburgers. I had just moved out to California. You were out in California. We were
living in my car.
You were homeless. Yeah,
I was homeless. Yeah.
So I don't even know where to begin there, because there was a personal piece, in terms of first getting over. I wouldn't say getting over the shock. But like I was just like, oh my God, I just saw him in New York City. I'm watching his Echodrive. I'm watching his Echodrive music. I'm grooving out to things. He's got these funnels set up, and he's living in his car. Yeah. What was that experience like going out to LA and literally, living out of your car. I mean, it's
I'll tell
it's
you, man,
so like a
there
movie.
was a lot of freedom in it in the beginning. So I'll just basically tell you, the exact timeline. So what happened is, I'm in Phoenix working as a cover artist, honing my chops, making a new Dawn. And I say, all right, I've done this about a year. It's time to not be a cover artist. I don't want to get stuck in a local rut of just being, I watch what happens with these musicians. 10 years later, they're still singing in restaurants and bars as cover artists. So I said,
it turns into a Tom Petty song.
Yeah, man. So I said, I'm going to go big. And I found this coach, it was synchronicity. It's hard to say, like, I can look at it and be like, why the hell did I make that decision? But it showed up, and here was this guy that, had done all the same shit I'd done. He'd done Experts Academy, he'd done product launch formula. I'd spent 10 years doing internet marketing. And so Here he is as a musician with his funnels, and he's doing public speaking, which also pissed me off because when I found Tony and Brendan 10 years earlier, I was sure I was going to be a motivational speaker, and I built a personal development course, and, it flatlined and bombed. But he was embodying these things that I had glimpses of and been like, son of a bitch, this guy's doing it. My God, I've got to figure this out. And so I signed up. I paid him $25,000 to join his mastermind. And it was the biggest financial risk I've ever taken in my life. But I was like, I just believe, man. I knew I was captivating. I knew I could speak.
Yeah.
I just trusted, like, man, even if this guy only delivers a tenth of what he's promised, I'm going to be in a new income bracket. I'm going to be, speaking like this guy. I'm going to be, he does what's called keynote concerts. So music and speaking, I'm going to be using that to fuel my own music funnels. And, it's just going to all work out. Right. And so as I made that leap, that also got me to leap and say, all right, I'm going to go meet influencers. And so I came across, Chris Winfield at 90 Day Year. I just happened to, had been following Todd's stuff for a while. And one of the friends that had joined or didn't join this mastermind with me, but he was a copywriter and a musician, but he was like, hey, I'm going to 90 Day Year. You want to come? And I was like, heck yeah, I've got a free ticket. And so I went to 90 Day Year with Todd Herman, met Chris Winfield, decided I was going to spend $5,000 there. In between that and several other programs and hotels and airfare, you get to being $45,000 in debt and, jumping off a cliff. I'm flying out to California. I'm driving around in my car, and suddenly it's like, hey, well, I'm living in my car and not making any money. I had this faith I was going to start making some money. And so, yeah, man, it's been a challenging process, no doubt.
Right.
But it's also shown me that the most important thing is to never be afraid to leap big and to trust that if you're leaping for you, right, you're going to learn lessons. You might crash and burn. It might be so freaking painful, but are you a better person than before you leapt? And I can unequivocally say, yes, I'm a better person, man. I'm stronger. I've learned more. And so I don't know where life will take me, but I'm letting go of that and saying, look, I don't regret the decision. Could I have made different choices, maybe better choices? Perhaps, but they're lessons I needed to learn. And I wouldn't be where I am right now if I hadn't have made those same choices.
Is there ever a stop button for leaping for you? Is there ever a point where
maybe there should be? I tend to kind of, I do these big leaps, and maybe there's some recklessness in it, and not. And a lot of times I'm writing a bit of a book. I don't know if it'll ever finish or what, who knows? But anyway, I was talking about this idea of so many of my leaps there's been expectation behind it. So it's been, I'm leaping because, it feels like in the moment, it feels like it's the right thing to do for my heart. Right. But there is no way around saying that, leaping into $45,000 of debt. That's pretty massive. And for someone that doesn't have any income, I left playing cover gigs, I didn't have any income, and I believed somehow that it was just going to happen. So maybe there's a bit of recklessness in that. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's this idea of belief, you know what I mean? And that's something that I want to acknowledge with you is there's a belief in you that I think a lot of people kind of wish that they would have. I wish I would have believed in myself more. You know, it might be Bronnie Ware's. She did a study. One of the regrets of the dying is taking those, not taking enough of those leaps. And since we're kind of transitioning there, number one, get ready for another song. But number two, I want you to I want you to go and so much of your life has been around this metaphor of a car, you know, living in it, getting in a car accident, right? Journeys, all that kind of stuff. Let's say that you were going to get into it. It may sound morbid. It sounds morbid coming out, but let's say that you get into another car accident.
Yeah.
And one in which, again, you're negotiating with the spirit. You're negotiating with the universe. What could you imagine what the day would be like afterwards? Meaning like, what are some of the things that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really into it right now, but it didn't matter at the end. Kind of like what you figured out when you were in your high school crash in 16. What would be what do you think?
So I think that, you know, as I've let go, you know, recently more deeply of needing to be a speaker, needing to be a musician, needing to have my funnels work. I've just sort of been, you know, letting go of that, man. And just, so I think if there's one thing that I would like to see myself more in action of is being of service. Like I would like to be more involved in helping other people to enrich their lives, you know, to be a part of that sense of those moments. Like I've had so many moments. I feel like I've lived my whole life for me. Mm-hmm. And so I have, and I don't mean like in a bad sense. Like, I mean, man, I believe in myself so much, and I've made these big leaps because I believe in my dreams. And I think that maybe I've done that to such a degree that I know that if I died, I'd be like, man, I've given it everything I could give. There's nothing left to regret. Mm-hmm. But I've not really yet engaged and been of service in a way that I feel I'm a good person, and I show up in the world and I add value into people's lives. But I guess I just like to feel more of that sense of like community, or that I'm really maybe just being a part of something more. And it's been my lifelong struggle, man, as being like a lone wolf, you know, and feeling I don't fit in. So I think I'd like to have more sense of that, more community, more interaction. And that's like, you know, conversations, like my friends, reaching out to them more. That is the stuff that I'm doing more of, and trusting like, all right, life is going to bring me these opportunities that that, you know, of more connection is I just keep doing what feels good, and talking to my friends feels good.
That doesn't seem like a leap. It does seem like something that makes sense after everything that you've gone through since your crash at 16. Even before then, when you were the you were the wolf in sheep's, right? And you were ready to bust out. And so I think that's really thoughtful of you to kind of throw that out, and I look forward to seeing what that looks like in coming iterations of.
Me too, man.
Of Andrew,
and I mean, this is part of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like there's no denying that when I'm around Mark Cordone, I feel joyful, man. It's, you know, it's like you're one of my dear friends. I think about you a lot. You know, I know we don't connect as often as I'd like, or maybe we both like, you know, but it's like, when I think of you, I smile. And the same thing with some of those other people that, you know, I met at Unfair Advantage, you know, that we know. And with my other friends, like those people that I smile when I think of them, and it's like, man, I want to play more with those people. I want to play with my friends.
Interestingly enough, two more things that Bronnie Ware had brought up in her study was, I wish I would have given myself permission to play more, and I wish I would have spent more time with my friends.
And there you go. So the three things. So like, the leaping. Yeah, I feel like I've done enough of that. I've done enough of that, and so now let me stop leaping for myself and all these dreams I have, and just say, hey, life's going to work itself out, but have more connections. Try and tap in more, to being with your friends, and find a way to just keep that engagement and going,
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool that you don't have to flip your car to come to that realization.
Amen.
I think it's kind of cool. Once is enough. I think for me, that would be enough, So I do want you to prepare for a song. Can we hear another one?
Yeah. I'm thinking, okay. You said you want to hear Gold, but
whatever you want to play, whatever you feel the sort of the call to play. But I do want to play. I do want to play the Golden Mike podcast game with you for a second.
Yeah. Okay,
I want to see how you embody joy. Right. And I want, after this conversation, I want to see what your revolution looks like. So I'm going to throw out a couple things. You tell me what comes up. Finish the question either short or long. There's no time limit, right?
All right.
So for Andrew Hand, joy looks like
spending time with my friends. Joy looks like doing what feels playful and free. Joy looks like having the courage to still do things that scare me. And which is interesting. I just said I was over leaping, but so I guess maybe we never truly stop, but just those I don't know, man. I guess right now for me, what joy looks like is being in the present moment, finding gratitude, and opening my heart to just experiencing the joy of life, right? Just experience the joy. And it's a fucking hard thing to do, man, because the mind can come in and try to find little dissatisfaction. And I mean on little stuff, man, like, your loved one comes home and your conversation is a little routine or it's like, man, that didn't feel like where I want to be. You yell at your animal or something, like the dog or cat does something you don't like, and you find yourself yelling at them. So I guess I just mean, joy looks like more mindfulness, man. Just being mindful and trying to have as many moments throughout the day of just that, of feeling joy, like in my body, feeling joy and bliss for as many moments throughout the day as I can.
Right on.
I'd like to look back on my day and see, hey man, every hour or every couple hours, like you really experienced joy the whole day.
Right on.
And even if it's like, dude, sometimes, the brain is done working. It's like, hey, I'm going to play a little like Madden on my phone. And like, instead of sitting there and being like upset with myself, like, man, you're playing too long. Like, instead of just being like, man, I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying just sitting here. And it's kind of wasting time in a sense, but you know what? I'm enjoying this.
So it's a bit of savoring involved. Yeah. So to Andrew, joy smells like.
Joy smells like.
And by the way, Teen Spirit has been used like 5 episodes already. So
well, I was going to say, just like crisp, fresh air, man. Joy smells like the ocean. Joy smells like I don't know, man, a busy restaurant. Joy smells like New York. And joy smells like where I am, right? Joy smells like where I am right now.
Absolutely. Joy feels like.
Joy feels like the best kind of energy. Joy feels free. Joy feels alive. Joy feels playful. Joy feels at peace and flow.
Joy tastes like.
Joy tastes like A good woman. No.
I would say an In-N-Out burger.
That's the second. That's
second. I saved this one for you. The last one. Joy sounds like.
Joy sounds like, man. Laughter. Yeah, laughter and joy sounds like. I think it sounds like this, man. It sounds like another voice. Joy sounds like conversation.
Yeah.
You know?
Amazing. So you obviously know that this is brought to you by the Joy Revolution. So it's either you are leading change with joy, or it's the revolution of joy inside of your heart. It can mean two things. So for you, Andrew, what is your joy revolution?
Right now, man, my joy revolution is it's just stoking that inner flame, man. You know, it's like the things we've talked about. It's this conversation. It's more of this, you know, it's just stepping and leaning into that more joy. Right. Because I think as we step into it and follow it more, like, yeah, man, it does become more of a revolution, and it becomes the way that our life just is. Right. Not because just because we said yes and we stepped into it. That's irregardless of the outcome or, you know, the circumstances. It's like when you let go of judgment and you stop having these expectations. I mean, come on, isn't life pretty damn joyful? Right? And if it's not, then do some things that are joyful. Let go of all that other shit and do some things that are joyful. And if you do that, if I do that, well, life becomes more joyful, right?
Right. I would say absolutely. Andrew, your story is fascinating, and it's also fascinating to know that we've met twice, and like I feel so close to you. You know, and they were pretty epic days when we met.
Yeah,
you know. And I can only see you being one of those people that I play with for a very long time. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you. I see you. For everyone listening, the show notes are there. But after this, I want you to play us off, Andrew. But I'm gonna say my sign off. So for everyone who listened to today's episode, don't forget. Remember, revolt in love, in light, in shadows, and in joy. Andrew, play us off.
Oh gosh! All right, Mark. What do you want to hear? Should we play the song that I wrote for you?
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
It's not always rainbows and happy thoughts, not always unicorns if you forgot. We get down sometimes and it's a lot to carry this world when the rhythm is lost. Yeah, 24, had a dream, live it up and it's fit for a king. I see the cost but I can't retreat. You only got one life, this is why I preach. Stand for your vision, even when you're giving. Never let them bleed you for more than a minute. This is why you came here, just see your name here. Standing in the light so big and I don't feel. Life is a vision for the mission we're giving. You can sink or you swim or you can rise through the venom. I choose to believe and that don't mean that I'm with it. If you feel what I'm saying, can you sing for a minute? It's not always rainbows and happy thoughts, not always unicorns if you forgot. We get down sometimes and it's a lot to carry this world when the rhythm is lost. When you're in it, down for a minute, praying, oh God, why can't it be finished? Facing 3 strikes and it feels like a limit. How you gonna turn around the home run, hit it? I was just a young man built with a vision. Now I'm just an old man fighting with a cynic. Every time I turn around, my mind says quit it, but I'm still in the game and I came here to win it. It's not always rainbows and happy thoughts, not always unicorns if you forgot. We get down sometimes and it's a lot to carry this world when the rhythm is lost. Life is a vision for the mission we're giving. You can sink or swim or you can rise through the venom. I choose to believe and that don't mean that I'm with it. You feel what I'm saying? Can you sing for a minute? It's not always rainbows and happy thoughts, not always unicorns if you forgot. We get down sometimes and it's a lot to carry this world when the rhythm is lost. They wanna tell you, boy, don't change. They wanna tell you, boy, stay the same. They wanna tell you, boy, walk this way. They don't have an idea what it's gonna take. It's not always rainbows and happy thoughts, not always unicorns if you forgot. We get down sometimes and it's a lot to carry this world when the rhythm is lost. Life is a vision for the mission we're given. You can sink or you swim or you can rise through the venom. I choose to believe, and that don't mean that I'm with it. If you feel what I'm saying, can you sing for a minute? It's not always rainbows and happy. Woo! Not always unicorns if you forgot. We get down sometimes and it's a lot to carry this world when the rhythm is lost. They wanna tell you, boy, don't change. They wanna tell you, boy, stay the same. They wanna tell you, boy, walk this way. They don't have an idea what it's gonna take.
Oh my goodness. On behalf of Andrew and myself, this has been the Golden Mike Podcast. Take care, everybody. Woo! I hope you enjoyed the Golden Mike Podcast. There's more good stuff coming your way. But until the next episode, let's stay in touch, yes? Find us on Instagram as The Joy Rev, or communicate with like-minded revolutionaries in our Facebook group. Search The Joy Revolution Underground. And of course, don't forget to check out the classes, articles, blogs, and some serious fun at joyrevolution.com. That's joyrevolution.com. Now, until then, what will you do to change history for the better? Let's go out and play, shall we? Press start to begin.